Welcome to Kdramas Decoded. This is the first episode of the new thriller K-drama, The Husband. The story begins with our two main characters climbing a mountain together. After reaching the top, they watch the sunrise and appear genuinely happy. However, the next scene reveals a very different reality. They are sitting side by side at a meeting, but they aren't speaking to each other. The meeting is about a new spinal surgery technique. A doctor announces that a breakthrough method has been developed and calls forward Dr. Taeju, the surgeon responsible for the innovation. Before he can receive recognition, Taeju explains that he has an emergency patient to attend to and leaves immediately. The people at the meeting are surprised by his behavior, while his wife, Seyeon, looks visibly annoyed. Meanwhile, Taeju performs surgery on a patient. At the same time, Seyeon meets Chairman Kim, an elderly man who is one of the hospital's most important sponsors. Her father, Dr. Ko, is also present. Chairman Kim is scheduled to undergo surgery soon. After finishing his operation, Taeju hears a commotion outside. A nurse explains that a woman is desperately pleading for help because her husband urgently needs surgery. The procedure has been delayed because no surgeon is available. The woman is crying and begging for someone to save her husband, while security guards attempt to remove her from the hospital. Taeju intervenes and examines the husband. He discovers that the man can barely walk after injuring himself while lifting heavy objects the previous day. After assessing his condition, Taeju decides that the patient requires immediate surgery. When Seyeon learns about this, she confronts Taeju. She reminds him that the operating room has been reserved for Chairman Kim, an important VIP patient. Taeju argues that the injured man needs surgery immediately and warns that delaying treatment could leave him permanently unable to walk. Despite Seyeon's objections, Taeju proceeds with the emergency surgery. Just as he is about to begin, Dr. Ko, his father-in-law and Seyeon's father, arrives and orders him to stop. Dr. Ko insists that Chairman Kim's operation must take priority. Taeju refuses. He declares that the surgery has already begun and angrily tells Dr. Ko to leave the operating room. His reaction is unusually harsh, and Seyeon witnesses the entire confrontation from outside. The following morning, Taeju wakes up at home and makes coffee. Seyoon enters, but their interaction is cold and distant. Taeju apologizes for what happened and promises to follow hospital procedures in the future. Seyoon reminds him that Chairman Kim is one of the hospital's biggest sponsors and that hospital rules exist for a reason. Taeju argues that those rules were created by Seyoon and her father, though she doesn't fully hear what he says. Instead, he simply promises to apologize. Later, Taeju apologizes to Dr. Ko. However, Dr. Ko remains angry and points out that Taeju rudely ordered him out of the operating room. Taeju patiently listens to the criticism and continues apologizing. As he leaves, nurses gossip about him. We are also introduced to Dr. Choi, Taeju's close friend. While riding the elevator, Taeju crosses paths with a woman named Miss Cha. After Taeju leaves, Dr. Choi attempts to ask Miss Cha out for coffee, but she rejects him.
Soon afterward, Taeju encounters Seyeon again. She's on her way to a meeting. Taeju thanks her because she helped smooth things over with Chairman Kim and clarified the situation to the media. However, Seyeon insists that she only did her job and not because of any personal feelings for him. Later, Seyeon sees a family together and becomes emotional. A flashback suggests a tragic event from her past involving doctors desperately trying to save someone's life. The memory overwhelms her, and she breaks down crying. Elsewhere, Dr. Choi meets Taeju and talks about his troubled marriage. As Taeju's childhood friend, Choi bluntly tells him that the relationship seems doomed unless something changes. He even suggests that Taeju finally tell Seyeon the truth about whatever he has been hiding. Trying to repair their relationship, Taeju prepares a special dinner featuring all of Seyeon's favorite foods. Initially, she refuses to join him and walks away. Later, she returns and sits down. Taeju pours wine for them, but while reaching for the bottle, they accidentally knock it over. The bottle shatters, and a piece of climbing equipment also falls and breaks. This sparks another argument. Seyeon bitterly remarks that everything falls apart whenever they are together. Taeju offers to repair the broken item, but Seyeon replies that their marriage is just as broken and cannot be fixed. Desperate, Taeju asks her what he should do because he genuinely doesn't know how to save their relationship. Seyeon coldly tells him to continue living exactly as he always has. Finally, Taeju suggests ending things and brings up divorce. Surprisingly, Seyeon refuses. Taeju asks why, considering she believes their relationship cannot be repaired. Seyeon responds that he only wants a divorce because she cannot give him something he wants. The next day, both attend a formal party. Taeju tells Dr. Choi about the divorce discussion. Choi asks what Taeju plans to do afterward and whether he even has enough money to open his own clinic. Miss Cha approaches Taeju and congratulates him on his medical achievement. Seyeon watches from a distance. Miss Cha praises Taeju's talent and dedication before leaving.
Seyeon then approaches him and congratulates him as well. While they are talking, she once again brings up divorce. Taeju tells her this is not the appropriate place for such a discussion and walks away. He later visits his mother and brother, who run a hotel. His mother prepares food for him and even sets aside food for Seyeon. Later, Taeju drinks with his brother and opens up about everything happening in his marriage. His brother advises him to give Seyeon more time, saying that marriage can be difficult. That night, after drinking heavily, Taeju calls for a designated driver to take him home. A man arrives and drives him away. Meanwhile, Seyeon is lying in bed. She senses someone standing nearby and assumes it is her husband. However, the person is not Taeju. It is someone else entirely. The next morning, Taeju wakes up and notices several missed calls. His belongings are still where he left them, but Seyeon is nowhere to be found. Ignoring the odd situation, he heads to the hospital. On the way, he receives a call from an unknown number. The caller claims to be the driver from the previous night and says he still hasn't been paid. When Taeju asks for payment details, the caller suddenly starts talking about Seyeon. Annoyed, Taeju hangs up. At the hospital, Dr. Choi tells him that Seyeon unexpectedly missed a golf appointment she had arranged. This immediately raises concerns. Taeju calls his wife, but the same mysterious man answers her phone. When Taeju demands to know where Seyeon is, the caller shocks him by claiming that Taeju hired him to kill her. The man insists that Seyeon is still alive for now, but he will kill her as soon as he receives payment. The kidnapper sends Taeju a video recorded the previous night. In the footage, a drunken Taeju says that he wants to get away from his wife. Although those words were clearly taken out of context, the kidnapper uses them as proof. The kidnapper demands 1 billion won and gives Taeju only 3 hours to deliver the money. Panicked, Taeju contacts the driving service company. They inform him that no driver ever picked him up because he never answered their call. Realizing something is terribly wrong, Taeju checks his car's security footage and discovers that the man who posed as the driver was an imposter. The truth finally hits him. Seyeon has been kidnapped. The kidnapper is then shown pushing a vehicle into the water. At the same time, Taeju arrives outside a police station, intending to seek help. Before he can enter, the kidnapper calls again via video. Taeju watches in horror as Seyeon appears trapped inside a vehicle that is slowly sinking into the water. Terrified, he begs the kidnapper not to hurt her. The kidnapper reminds him not to involve the police and repeats his demand for the ransom money. Desperate to save his wife, Taeju scrambles to gather funds, but fails to secure enough money. Eventually, he fills a bag with what cash he can find and pretends the full amount is inside. The kidnapper instructs him to come to a specific location. While rushing there, Taeju nearly collides with a scooter rider. The rider crashes, and Taeju gets out to help him. Suddenly, the writer asks, "Where is the 1 billion won?" Before Taeju can react, the man repeats the question. Realizing this is connected to the kidnapping, Taeju tries to understand what is happening. But before he can do anything, the man shocks him with a stun device, knocking him unconscious. And with that shocking cliffhanger, episode 1 comes to an end.